So what is Master Chorale working on now? I know that you put on a series of concerts throughout the year. What's next for you?
Well, what's immediately on our horizon is Beethoven 9.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
You and millions of other people, thankfully for all of us, and a very seldom heard work by Arnold Schoenberg called Friede auf Erden.
Tell me more about that.
This is a piece that was written in 1907, and Schoenberg is a composer that tried to change music entirely by basically reorganizing what we think of when we think of scales and organization. I don't want to get too music-y here, but he decided to really make music more of a mathematical sequence. To make it simple, he called it serialism or dodecaphonic music. And for the modern ear, most people don't take to it very well, although he's brilliant. This piece was written before that time period, and it is more akin to the music of late Strauss and Mahler. It's very, very beautiful, sensual, chromatic music. The poem is a poem that is asking for peace on earth. Friede auf Erden means peace on earth. And when the piece was originally written, it was so difficult, choirs were having a hard time performing it.
How's Master Chorale doing?
We're doing just fine.
Good,
I'm very excited. But when it was first performed, it was designed to be an a cappella work, a work that does not have instrumental accompaniment. And choirs were struggling with it. So Schoenberg decided to add orchestral accompaniment to assist the choirs that might want to perform it. Since that time, this version has become a little popular, and the conductor of the Florida Orchestra, Stefan Zanderling, is choosing to have us do that version. So there'll be orchestration with the choral accompaniment. One sidebar story about it, as Schoenberg lived through the First and Second World War, he got to a point during the Second World War where he said, I don't think my piece should ever be performed again because I don't believe peace can actually happen on earth. And luckily for all of us, the piece has survived, and we are doing it with a lot of joy and peace in our heart.
That's an honor that you were chosen to sing with the orchestra.
Absolutely. Well, our agreement with the Florida Orchestra is to provide them a first-rate symphonic chorus. And this piece, Friede auf Erden, is just so rare. We were honored that they asked us to attempt such a difficult work, and then to pair it with Beethoven 9.
Why do you think Beethoven is so ubiquitous? There are so many composers over the course of, time, and yet there are a few that really stand out. Why is Beethoven one of them?
It's a very good question, because Beethoven as a living guy was probably somebody we wouldn't hang out with very often. They said he was kind of disheveled, his clothes weren't always washed, he was a little grumpy, and apparently he fired his housemaids no less than about 5 or 6 times in his lifetime. But yet somehow the music that he composed ended up having a universality to it that it doesn't matter where you're from, you somehow feel a connection, which is, I think, what most people in the world feel about Beethoven 9. This symphony that we're doing, which can be argued as one of the most famous pieces of all time. This tune, this Ode to Joy that so many people know. It seems like every person's little boy or girl, when they take piano, they play da da dee da 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 da. Everybody knows this tune. Beethoven, I think people relate to him because he was just like us. Brilliant, but in real life, just like us. Flawed.
Brilliant.
Exactly, exactly.
So what is the story behind Ode to Joy specifically?
It's Beethoven's last complete symphony. He actually started a little bit of the 10th, but it came very late in his life. And at this point, it's been well documented and publicized that Beethoven was completely deaf. And for a person whose entire life and career and passion is on making music and sound, to lose your hearing must have been the most horrible blow one could take. He said that himself. And so I think some people look at Beethoven 9 as this amazing act of humanity, that he could even compose this without ever hearing a single note of it other than in his mind's ear, if you will. The poem by Schiller is all about humanity finding elevation through brotherhood and sisterhood. It even says that in the work itself. But in a musical sense, it was the first of its kind. No symphony, no symphonic form had ever had voice with it. Beethoven was the first composer to take the symphonic form and say, it needs to speak words. And so the symphony is designed so you go through the first, second, and third movement, just like any other symphony, and you have to imagine what the music might be saying to you. We call it esoteric music. You're having to make your own storyline. Then you get to the last movement, and Beethoven says, I'm going to tell you what the symphony is saying, because he actually has a singer walk out and sing. Never had happened before. And it changed music forever. Brahms referred to this symphony as the Mount Everest of symphonic form. So when the chorus opens its throat and sings the Ode to Joy, you're actually hearing Beethoven, his own voice.
Wow.